Okay, welcome to today's webinar on managing time and attendance in a changing business environment. Over here at Nettime Solutions, we're going to be live tweeting throughout the webinar. So if you're on Twitter, you can contribute to the conversation by following us at nettime, and we're going to be using hashtag #NimbleBusiness. My name is Jennifer Spencer. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Nettime Solutions, and I'm also on Twitter. You can find me there at Jen Spencer. Before we get started, I want to let you know this webinar is being recorded, and we're going to email it out to all registrants tomorrow, so you'll get it in your inbox. And as always, we're going to be posting the webinar recording online. So if you have any colleagues who couldn't make it today, never fear, they'll be able to catch up with us later. Also, throughout the webinar, we're going to be doing some live polls via that GoToWebinar control panel. So throughout the webinar, be ready to weigh in on the topics at hand. We'll be interested in hearing your thoughts throughout the presentation. So let's dive into the agenda. In today's webinar, we're going to look at the value that integrated HR software can bring to your organization. Then next, we'll examine how time and attendance software can assist you with classifying employees, and also how it can improve your overall decision making. Then we'll dive into some specific case studies that illustrate how organizations like yours have used time and attendance software to help them in their changing business environments. And then finally, we're going to close with a Q&A session. So if there are any questions that come up, you can feel free to enter them in the question panel over on your little GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll answer all your questions at the end of the webinar. I'm actually joined today by one of our technical sales engineers, so he's here to help me out with any highly technical questions that you might have about time and attendance software that I might not be the best person to answer. Okay, so market gyrations, national politics, natural disasters, international events. These are all pretty substantial factors that can impact our business environments. And unfortunately, there's very little, if anything, that we can do as business leaders to control these external factors. But what we can do is we can manage for those factors. So specifically, organizations like yours can manage time and attendance in response to these constantly changing business environments. In fact, time and attendance technology can help in nearly every aspect of nimble business response, from managing payroll taxes to reducing idle production time and analyzing your employee costs. So let's talk about the value of integrated HR software. First, I want to ask you, do you remember when your personnel file was an actual manila folder inside someone's desk? And actually, let's go ahead and take a quick poll. So for those of us on the live webinar today, since we are recording this, how does your organization store essential personnel information? Do you use a software system, whether that's an on-premise solution or cloud-based? Do you use the good old-fashioned paper folders? Is it a mixture of both, or are you not sure? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to launch this poll. And you can go ahead and respond A, B, C, or D. Do you use software? Are you using paper, a mixture of both, or maybe you're not sure? Okay, let's close the poll. And just sharing the results with you. So it looks like 25% of us on the call today are using a software system, 19% are using good old-fashioned paper folders, 50% a mixture, and 6% are not sure. Great, thank you so much, everybody. So integrated or HR management systems can actually consolidate every aspect of a person's employment, from recruitment to reward and retention. So there are some really great benefits of having an integrated time and attendance or actually any kind of integrated HR software. So meanwhile, a sophisticated time and attendance system that seamlessly integrates with your HR platform can actually help bolster the HR process in many ways that you might not think of. So the first is through performance reviews. Next is in making high-level strategic moves for your company. And then finally, helping you better recruit, retain, and reward your employees. So I have another quick poll for you. Now, speaking of performance reviews, I'm kind of curious. I'd like to know if tardiness or absenteeism is accounted for in your employees' annual performance reviews. So you just answer for me yes, no, or I'm not sure. I'll launch this poll. Do you know, is tardiness or absenteeism accounted for in your employees' annual reviews? Okay, so let me share these results with you. So 76% of you have said yes. Yes, tardiness or absenteeism is accounted for in your annual performance reviews. 6% said no, and 18% are not sure. So according to the latest survey that we conducted here at Nettime Solutions, 76% of our respondents, which is very much in line with what you all said here on the call today, 76% of our respondents shared that tardiness or absenteeism is accounted for in performance reviews. And guess what? Time and attendance software can actually help those managers with this piece of the performance review process. Let's move on to employee classification assistance. So I mentioned earlier that time and attendance software can be really instrumental in assisting with this. And why is this important? Well, primarily the right employee classifications will help ensure that you have proper reporting and compliance with your local, state, and federal regulations. So let's look at some specifics on how exactly how automated cloud-based time and attendance can help. So the first is accurate reporting with data in real time. So with automated time and attendance software that's based in the cloud, data is recorded in real time. Managers can see on a dashboard exactly who is clocked in and out and who is approaching overtime. Easy to read icons can warn managers of exceptions and missing punches, and customizable charts will help managers analyze labor data and predict operational needs. Also, accurate time and attendance can be received from remote locations and with self-service access. So you might be an organization that wants to give your employees the best state-of-the-art tools to do their jobs. But then when they're back at their desks, are they wondering, okay, what's next week's schedule? How many hours have I logged? How much time have I worked on this project? With cloud-based time and attendance software, employees can check their hours, their schedules, their accrual balances, all using a self-service employee dashboard. And then time off requests can be confidently and efficiently made to the manager for approval. The last is seamless integration of time and attendance data into payroll and HR systems. So payroll software is essential, and so too is the ability to seamlessly integrate your time and attendance data. And in addition, HR systems benefit from having this seamless integration because this can help not just how much an employee has been paid, help you track that, but also how much time they've spent working at the company. So let me ask you this. How important is it for your timesheet data to integrate with your HR and payroll systems? Is it very important, not important, or are you not sure? Let me launch this poll. Excellent. Okay, so let me share these results with you. 87% of you said it is very important for your timesheet data to integrate with your HR and payroll systems. 13% said it was important, and no one said not important, and no one is not sure. So we are all in agreement, which is great. And this information is consistent with our latest survey. 86% of our respondents shared that it was either important or very important for their timesheet data to integrate into their payroll system. Because after all, if you don't have those time hours, how are you going to know how much you're supposed to pay those employees? It's very critical. So I also shared with you when we got started what that great time and attendance systems, how they can influence critical decisions that you make on a daily basis. And I wanted to share this quote. This is from the Wall Street Journal not long ago. that organizations could be making bad decisions every day, whether they're driven by competing interests, erroneous assumptions, insufficient time, or inaccurate or spotty information. There are countless ways to miss the decision-making mark. So let's look at 5 ways time and attendance software can help you make better decisions. The first is to identify problems before they happen. So I'm not saying that big downturns can't suddenly occur. I mean, life happens. But when employees use an automated time and attendance system, you can run easy-to-read reports and proactively monitor employee time monthly, weekly, daily, even hourly if you want, because the data is collected in real time. You ensure quality staffing. So one feature of an advanced time and attendance system should be a highly visual dashboard. So for example, in a calendar viewing, managers should be able to see which employees have requested time off and if there's any operational conflict. And with a degree of certainty, you should be able to look ahead to the future, make sure you're appropriately staffed. Adding on to that, to be able to generate schedules quickly and efficiently. So make it easy for your employees by providing super speedy access to their schedules. And a great time and attendance system has a scheduling feature that will store employee schedules, requested days off, and can even alert managers when someone's nearing overtime. Make time more meaningful. So start tracking time by task, project, client, or any other customized way your business slices up its day. You're a busy person, but the question is, are you spending your time on the tasks that are most meaningful? And finally, hold people accountable. So electronically clocking in and out can be captured right down to the second in real time. And if for some reason the time does need to be altered, there will be an accompanying chain of approvals, making the authorization transparent. So you know this, your people know this, and when they step up to that time clock, they're ready and presenting themselves to be counted in. So let me ask you this. Speaking of accountability, would you say that accountability is one of your organization's core values? We launch this poll. Is accountability a core value of your organization? A couple more seconds to vote. Okay, so let me share this with you. So on the webinar today, 80% of you said yes, accountability is one of your organization's core values. 13% have shared no, and 7% are not sure. So according to our survey, 92% of our respondents said yes, in fact, accountability is one of their organization's core values, which is great news because time and attendance software can help those organizations support this critical core value. Now, pulling all these pieces together, I want to take you through a few of our particular clients' case studies where you can see how time and attendance software was able to help them specifically in very changing business environments. So our first case study is about homeexchange.com. So homeexchange.com's mission is to connect like-minded travelers, help them travel anywhere, live like locals, and basically stay for free. The company was started in 1992, originally as a printed mailed book. Now it's a website. And since then, the company has had more than 1 million exchanges in over 150 different countries, which is pretty phenomenal. So their big problem they had was manually entering hours into payroll. So homeexchange.com is based in the US, and all employees are remote workers who are paid every 2 weeks. And before implementing Stratus Time, employees were emailing their hours as a spreadsheet. So that meant somebody had to comb through an inbox, find the emails, open the attachments, and then manually enter the hours into the company's payroll program. So the solution was for the company to move all time and attendance reporting onto Stratus Time. And so now all employees use the browser-based employee dashboard to clock in and out. There's a single point of collection of hours, and with the push of a couple of buttons, all of the hours seamlessly integrate to their payroll provider. And in this case, homeexchange.com, they use SurePayroll for their payroll. Next, let's look at Rayon Vert. So Rayon Vert is a European-based marketing company, and they have 50 remote and independent contractors who are distributed all across Europe. So their big problem was also they had no centralized system for hours collection. Each contractor had a completely different way of submitting their hours via email. The company had no consistent way to review the hours month to month, which ultimately meant the management faced total lack of control. So now their contractors clock in and out using the browser-based employee dashboard, and the time data is actually, in this case, used to generate invoices for this marketing company's clients. So they actually decided to use our customized labor levels by function. So they have administrative, translation, customer service, and press. So they were able to actually customize those fields in StratusTime to better serve the needs that their organization was facing. So now the executive team can review the hours spent across functions, as a group, by individual, and they can also compare country by country since they have contractors in many different countries throughout Europe. So one of the side benefits that they weren't anticipating was increased accountability. So going back to that as a core value, Rayon Vert found that once the contractors had to clock in and out for each project, the total number of hours reported has gone down, which then lowered their expenses. Next case study is about our friends at 82nd Street Academics. So 82nd Street Academics' mission is to complement public education so that students in New York City, regardless of their home language, have access to quality public higher education. And their big problem they had was the abuse of paper timesheets. So 82nd Street Academics is located across 4 sites in Queens and 1 in the Bronx. In June of 2014, they only had 92 staff, but as of March 2015, the educational company has rapidly grown to 132 employees. They shared with us that the previous system of filling out time cards lent itself to abuse. Also, 82nd Street Academics needed a time clock that would keep working if internet service was interrupted, which unfortunately was an infrastructure reality given the diversity of work locations and the organizational's just technical situation. And then finally, ease of use was critical because with the last time system that they had, it was so complex that a manager would have to consult an operating manual on a regular basis. So today, the employees use the Net1 clock with biometric fingerprint readers to clock in and out at each location. And since all time and attendance is captured in real time and stored in the cloud, StratusTime integrates all of the data from across multiple staffs. And for its growing staff, the company wanted to have better internal controls. So on the dashboard, the payroll administrator can see that the employees and their supervisors have approved all hours. And then also the information seamlessly integrates with their payroll system. And in this case, this organization is using ADP for payroll. Now, like Rayon Vert, a bonus for 82nd Street Academics was the ability to customize those fields in StratusTime. So specifically, they have fields that alert when an employee is due to renew medical records and registration on the statewide clearance registry. So this has really helped them because they lacked the HR infrastructure to be able to keep track of that. And the fines can be pretty severe if any of their employees lapse on those medical certifications. So StratusTime is helping them keep track of that. Now for our final case study, American Gas Products. So American Gas Products is located in Boston, Massachusetts, and they are a leading supplier of industrial, microbulk, and medical gases, welding supplies, and equipment. Their problem was that they found paper timesheets to be very ineffective. So the company has employees that work in 6 different states. Some employees work by themselves, whereas others work in small groups, so there's a lot of cross-departmental collaboration. When an employee filled out a timesheet, different managers then had the responsibility for collecting and submitting the information for payroll and getting all the employees to fill out their time cards and then getting those time cards to the appropriate managers for each project and delivering it to HR just became a payroll headache every Monday morning. So American Gas Products, they realized that paper timesheets were not only inefficient and ineffective, but were ultimately a source of money loss in terms of misreported labor costs. So the company installed 3 Net1 cloud-based time clocks at different locations and also set its remote employees up with mobile access to Stratus Time. So right from their smartphones, remote employees can clock in or out and their geographic locations are recorded. And now that the company has every employee's time and attendance information centralized in the cloud, now with a few touches of the buttons, all that information automatically integrates into payroll. And in this case, this organization is using Paychex for payroll. So let's review 3 key takeaways from today's webinar. First, organizations like yours can manage time and attendance in response to constantly changing business environments. Second, this technology can help in nearly every aspect of nimble business response. And then finally, software can and should be customized to serve the critical needs of your organization. So I'd like to use the remainder of the time we have today to answer any questions that you might have about using time and attendance technology for managing changing business environments. So you can go ahead and answer or plug your questions right into that field and go to webinar, and we'll do our best to answer them. First question says, how does your system work with employees on salary but still based on achieving a certain number of hours per week? So I'm actually going to pass the mic here over to Ruli Garcia, one of our technical sales engineers. He's going to answer this question for you.
That really would just depend on your needs. So we do have the ability when a salary employee is getting paid to automatically push over a set number of hours. But let's say you have something like project or task reporting that you'd like to do. You can still have them clock those worked hours for your reporting purposes. Maybe you have some sort of charge rate held in the system, because we can have both employee rates and charge rates to assist in your reporting as well. So you can get their actual worked hours for your reports, but you can still push a salaried pay out for your payroll.
We have a question here. Do you have remote GPS? So I'm actually going to have Ruli answer that question and explain about our geolocation and our geofencing technologies.
So with our mobile devices, they can use either a smartphone or a tablet, and we do have what we call geolocation services. So any punch done from one of those devices on the employee's time card creates a special icon. When you click on that icon, you can actually see directly on a map where that occurred. Going into the setup of that, there's a few different ways you can restrict that. The simplest way is IP address restricting. They can't clock unless they're on your network. We can also do what we call geofencing, and you can now actually draw, for instance, a grid on a map to say my employee cannot clock unless they're within. Maybe you draw a grid around an office building unless they're in that office building. Or maybe you simply drop a pin on a map and say they can't punch unless they're within X amount of feet on that from that pin. And you can assign employees to multiple fences. So if it's an employee who works in lots of different locations, maybe they're on site with multiple clients, they can have multiple fences they belong to.
Really, there's a question here about what happens if an employee fails to enter their time?
That is kind of a different piece case by case, and it really depends on what you want to happen. If you specifically have an employee who has a schedule and we know when to expect them, you might get an absence alert as early as a couple hours into their shift so that you can know that they're not here today. Are they sick and maybe they haven't called? Are they here and they've forgotten to punch? If we're talking kind of long-term, an employee who does not submit on a daily basis, maybe they submit it at the end of the week, well, at your time card approval process, you'll be able to see that reflected in your summary page or maybe even in a report. It really depends on how the employee is interacting, and in that case, it's probably best posed to one of the sales reps, just so we can answer that more specifically, but it can be worked out a couple different ways.
There's a really great question here. Can an employee punch in with a mobile app on another user's mobile device without having to log in as a different user? And there's two solutions I can think of for this. I'm going to again let Ruli answer this, both with the manager dashboard that we have on our mobile interface and also our web kiosk solution.
So when it comes to the mobile piece, it's actually not an app, it's a mobile website. And that's the first important piece, in that we do seamless updates to the system every 2 to 3 weeks. So you are working on the most current and a very evolved system. But if you were someone who always had to use your mobile device, what that's going to mean is you would have to update it constantly, and that would get in the way. So instead, the mobile website's going to automatically format to whatever device they're using, and the login page is something similar to the web. So they do have their own individual login IDs and passwords. So that's for an individual who maybe is logging in as themselves. However, if you have a situation where you'd like an admin, a manager, or a supervisor from a mobile device to be able to do mass editing, mass functions, maybe punch my entire staff in at one time. Maybe I'm at some sort of event, I have a safety meeting, and I want to punch in all 20 of my employees at once. So you can do things like that as well, but it's all captured by the login ID and password and that specific user's capabilities and powers within the system.
There's a question here about, once integrated into payroll, can the payroll manager make adjustments in payroll and in the timesheet database?
That's another piece that probably is better discussed on a one-on-one. There is a process for locking time cards as well as unlocking time cards, and there are lots of options as far as who's allowed to do that, is that allowed, period, and then what happens. And to be honest, it will also vary depending on which payroll system it is that Stratus Time is linked to.
Okay, we're just going to wrap up now. We've reached our 30-minute mark. There are a couple more questions that are a little bit specific, so I'm going to go ahead and answer those directly into the control panel. So if you'll just hang on one moment, we'll answer those there. But I just want to say thank you so much to everybody for joining us for managing time and attendance in a changing business environment. So if you want more information, you can please give us a call at 1-800-561-6366. You can also visit us online at nettimesolutions.com, where you can request a customized demonstration of our time and attendance software, and you can speak with one of our sales representatives who can do some investigation work with you to figure out if the solution will fit the unique needs of your organization. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a great week.